normal for kids to be looking at this? Is that okay?
No, it's not. It's wrong.
This is propaganda.
Yeah.
This is
Normalizing.
It's affecting the next generation.
In Virginia's closely watched governor's race, Republican businessman Glenn Youngkin has emerged triumphant.
Alrighty, Virginia, we won this thing!
Narrowly defeating his Democratic opponent.
Welcome to the New Flesh Podcast, the podcast you deserve. My name is Jonathan Astro. With me is Ricky Allpike. Ricky, how are you?
I'm great. I'm pumped to go. I'm amped. I feel like we've got a really good show today.
Yeah, it's going to be good. All right, what do you got? Hit me with the first. Just get into it. Go. What's first?
All right. So I've got a Loudoun County update. Now, I know this is technically the third update, but just following on from last week, I've got to talk about the governor of Virginia because we talked about the parents' revolt that was happening in Loudoun County. Now, stupid me, I didn't realize that Loudoun County was in Virginia, and Virginia just elected a Republican governor for the first time since 2009. This guy, Glenn Youngkin, he smashed his Democrat opponent and he ran on the issue of education. And this is an issue that rarely wins elections, and specifically a campaign against critical race theory. Schools in Virginia were closed for a whole year during the pandemic, and this was also an aspect to the education debate there. Youngkin said from the outset of his run that Virginia schools must never be closed again. And the Democrat runner, Terry McAuliffe, he denounced the campaign against critical race theory as a racist dog whistle and a right-wing conspiracy theory, something that had, as he said, never been taught in Virginia. And this was despite the fact that when he last held office in Virginia as the governor in 2014 and 2018, the Virginia Department of Education instructed schools to embrace critical race theory. So this is a big win for the parents and a great pushback against the neo-racist ideology of critical race theory. And I think you're going to start to see a little bit more of this pushback in, the coming years in the US, which is a great sign.
It is. It's the first. It's the beginning of a backlash to this, rather constrictive ideology that has been pushed out there. And I think the Democrats are making massive mistake. They went with their 2020 presidential sort of campaign talking points. They were like, Trump, Trump, Trump. They talked endlessly about Donald Trump. And because he's been kicked off Twitter and he's not tweeting, they were sort of talking about someone who's not in the public eye anymore. Yeah. And, he doesn't have a Twitter account yet. The Taliban do. So,
that's right.
That's that. So, and their approach again, trying to tie him to Trump, but then also refuting, as the mainstream media in America have also done, that critical race theory even exists, outside of law schools in elite universities. This is a very, very stupid tactic. I understand why, because technically they're right? Because technically, if you drill down into it, you say, well, critical race theory is, by Derek Bell, is a very specific law school theory, that uses intersectionality and a range of other things. But as we understand it now, and Christopher Rufo has been part of this pivot, is that what the Democrats could say is, or what they don't want to say is, no, we're not teaching exactly critical race theory as it appears in those law school books. However, we are in some of the materials we give your children, and we are teaching them about intersectionality. We are teaching them about oppressors and privilege, and we are teaching them the 1619 Project and a range of other things that are all contested things, and that normal people, average people in flyover states, don't. They've witnessed this stuff coming home, and they don't like it.
Yeah. And we've mentioned this before on the podcast, like the left, they're masters at linguistic gymnastics, they are going to reinvent CRT with totally different terminologies to try and fool us for the next time round. And what I think is interesting is that this situation in Virginia, it wouldn't have come out at this time if not for the COVID pandemic. So that forced everyone to homeschool, and parents started to see the kind of things that kids were learning, and they didn't much care for it. So, the other thing that the Democrat runner in Virginia said, Terry McAuliffe, he said one of the famous quotes that did him in, I think, for running for governor, was that he said he didn't think parents should have a say in what kids are taught in schools. So that was, a huge misstep.
What a stupid thing to say. What a stupid thing to say, even if you believe it.
Yes,
what a
I know,
stupid thing
I know.
to even... surely his handler was off stage just going, oh my God, what did you just say?
Yeah,
I just checked
I
the
know.
numbers on this. 80% of the state thinks that parents should have a say.
Yes, yeah.
And
I think that was a huge gift to the Republicans, and they just doubled down. They went harder on the issue, and it worked.
But the Democrats, to a certain degree, the Labor Party in the UK and Australia, but it's more pronounced in America, obviously. The Democrats just have a problem. They've got a serious problem. That for some reason, the left has, they have no positive message about the future. They have no message of hope. They have no message of that celebrates, the greatness of our countries and our societies and whatever, as well as, when it's appropriate, acknowledging the negative aspects as well, and our struggle, all of us.
Yeah.
So they just have when they get up and speak, it's always, Democrats have sort of become the party of no. Do you know what I mean? They're not a positive, because that's the thing. They can't even proudly identify, acknowledge that borders might play a role in a country. I'm not even talking about a border wall. I'm talking about a border at all.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And that's something that party needs to reckon with. If you can't say that, oh yeah, well, we're a nation state. That's what we are. I'm not here to reinvent the wheel. That is what we are. Therefore, we have borders. Therefore, there are people who are in, people who are out. And yes, we do need immigration to keep the economy going. And also, but we need, refugee and asylum seekers. Absolutely. You know what I mean? You need but you need to have a very mature approach to this stuff. And the Democrats and a lot of other left-leaning, super progressive wings just cannot sell positivity. And there seem to be now, because grievance studies is now a sort of a hallmark of ultra left progressive politics. It's such a negative thing, because think about it: critical theory. It's criticism. It's not about building anything. It's not about making anything new. It's about tearing down. It's about destruction of something, of criticizing, because when Robin DiAngelo's stuff, when you what you discover is that there is no end goal. The state that you're meant to live in for the rest of time is this state of perpetual guilt and sin, and on one knee, presumably.
Yeah, I think it's also tied in with that is the victim mentality as well. Like victimhood is a status now. I mean, you even seeing it with really well off or people that you wouldn't really think had any sort of claim to victim status. I mean, you're seeing even royals do it. I mean, Prince Harry talks about how his father was absent, and how that's impacted his mental health, and he's on this big mental health thing. So that he can be the victim too.
A royal, Prince Harry, I think a successful television actress, his wife, and the most famous TV presenter, Oprah Winfrey, all down the road from the Obamas, having in that documentary, all weeping about their problems. I mean, could you think of a trio that is more out of touch?
I know.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I know.
For goodness sakes.
Yeah.
So anyway,
so that is our update on Loudoun County and the state of Virginia.
Alrighty, Virginia, we won this thing! This is the spirit of Virginia coming together like never before.
Youngkin cut into McAuliffe's margins in Democratic strongholds, winning back suburban voters who Trump lost in 2020 by focusing on education, including the controversial critical race theory.
Should we talk about OkCupid?
Yes. You sent me. Now, the trigger for this story was, I think you sent me some images from a campaign, an exciting new campaign that online dating website OkCupid has put out there.
That's right, yeah. And this particular ad campaign triggered someone a few days ago, and as yet, well, I think she is identified, but unidentified Asian American woman who was filmed tearing down a series of subway ads promoting promiscuity, homosexuality, pansexuality, and sadomasochism. And these were the posters of OkCupid's recent ad campaign. And OkCupid, for those who don't know, they are like an online app dating service, a bit like Tinder, I guess.
They're more old school, though, aren't they? They're more old school online dating.
Well, I think they've had a longer history than Tinder, and I think they started out being a bit more of a social media platform in the beginning as well.
Style.
Sort of, I think so, but it's still going strong, and they operate internationally. They call themselves an online dating and friendship application. They're a big company. They're owned by Match Group, who also own Tinder, Hinge, Plenty of Fish, and a bunch of other dating apps. So they're a big player in the dating app scene here. And yeah, I haven't heard much. I think OkCupid is available in Australia, I assume, but I haven't heard much about it here in this country. But these subway poster ads, they were part of the recent marketing campaign by the site OkCupid. And in the video, which you can find on Twitter and YouTube, the woman is heard saying, "All this is gross. I don't know, for the kids to be looking at this, is this okay?
This is propaganda.
Yeah, this is not about equality, guys. It's about communism." Some passengers agreed that the ads were inappropriate and disturbing, with one passenger can be heard saying, "No, it's wrong. It's propaganda. It affects the next generation. This is disgusting." A male subway rider chimed in saying the explicit ads were desensitization. Another passenger said the graphic images were normalizing dangerous behaviors. So while the ads claim to be inclusive, some say the messages they push are decidedly left-wing and even fringe.
What's the campaign actually called? It's called Every Single Person. Is that right?
It's called Every Single, and then there's a different sort of tagline to that. Yeah, so the posters, they depict numerous identities as well as political slogans. So let me run through a couple of them here.
Okay.
So we have a picture that features a man being walked on by several high-heeled women with the tagline saying "Every single submissive." Then,
Okay. All right. Why do I think that was the first one they came up with?
yeah, probably,
Definitely.
Another features a bare-chested man with a tree growing out of his pants, being watered by a watering can, and the tagline here is "Every single tree hugger."
The tree looks like his erection, doesn't it?
It does, yeah. There's a close-up, and I know this is your favorite one. There's a close-up of two faces French kissing and sharing a single continuous tongue. It's hard to tell if it's a heterosexual couple or a lesbian couple, and the tagline for this is "Every single vaxxer."
I'll give you the tip. It's definitely not lesbians. Okay, it's definitely two men.
Oh, you think it's two men? I thought it was one. I thought that the face on the left, the white person's face,
it does
look like a chick, but then the black one on the right was sort of ambiguous. So I thought it was a dude, but I was like, oh, could be a chick. I'm not sure.
You don't want to say,
but it's kind of irrelevant in this case, really.
No, because okay, all right. Anyway.
Yeah, so another poster shows a couple in the missionary position surrounded by a miniature city skyscraper scene, and the tag here is "Every single romantic." So romantic, like fucking on the street, like in a big city somewhere, like just on the sidewalk. Anyway, so I'm going to run you through the other taglines here. So you've got "Every single pansexual," "Every single non-binary," "Every single vegetarian," "Every single non-monogamist," "Every single heavy petter," "Every single bear," "Every single feminist," And I believe there's more. I think the list is longer than that.
Every single toker.
Yeah, every single toker. So that's like someone who smokes weed. Is that?
Yeah. If you love weed, then you can find your
you can
soulmate.
find your weed match. So the posters were also accompanied by politically charged slogans, and I'm going to run you through a couple of these too. It's okay to choose Mr. Right based on how far he leans left.
Wait, say that again?
It's okay to choose Mr. Right based on how far he leans left.
That is not. They didn't print that.
They did.
They did not.
They did.
That on the poster.
No, not on the poster. There are separate posters that don't have these like people in it. It's just the text.
Okay.
But big and bold, like still the same colors, like the very pastel and sort of neon bright colors, you know.
Christ. Okay.
So here's another one. It's okay to choose to only date someone who's pro-choice.
Okay, yeah, that's obvious. Okay.
It's okay to be a party line voter and a swing dater.
Okay.
It's okay not to date a man who won't vote for a woman.
Okay.
Okay. It's okay to be fully committed to an open relationship. And could you date someone who couldn't be bothered to vote? So they're the main slogans there that sort of accompany these. So you got the posters, and then you got these separate poster ads that are just text-based that have these sort of political things on here. So let me just wind back a little bit to 2018. OkCupid's media campaign used the letters DTF, which most people know commonly is used as a shorthand for the phrase down to fuck. So, but in this case, the F being used to construct sort of a political message. So, for instance, DT, filter out the far right.
Oh my God.
So you got DTF, and then underneath the F, the text sort of goes down, and it'll say filter out the far right. And that became known as the Trump filter, believe it or not.
Okay.
So, I've already covered who OkCupid are. But in June 2021, they expanded their identity options for LGBTQ plus users with more than 60 identity options, including 20 sexual orientations and 22 gender options.
Yes.
Good. Their net worth, as far as I can tell, my stats are a little bit out of date, but 3.1 billion.
That's a lot.
Yeah. And I just think these hard leftists that are celebrating this corporate wokeism, they need to wake up. You know, this is a big corporate business. They sell your data to advertising companies, and they don't really care about non-binary, two-spirit people or any other weird 21st century kink. You know, they make the majority of their money from OkCupid, not from paying subscribers, which is an option. Most people are there on the free platform, and obviously in order to make money off those people, they mine the data and they use advertising, specifically target advertising to them. So I think people just need to wake the fuck up, you know. So what we're seeing is a trend of dating sites becoming overtly political. So, you know, sites like OkCupid here have taken to incorporating political beliefs into their matching algorithms. So among OkCupid's match questions about smoking habits and fetish friendliness, they also have overtly political and timely inquiries, including, did Russia hack the last US election? And would an immigration ban that targets Muslims make the country safer? So this began immediately after the inauguration of Trump, and Melissa Hobley, OkCupid's.
For you listeners, that was, you leave that in too. That was a Freudian slip from a Radiohead fan.
It is, yeah. OkCupid's chief marketing officer, she calls it the Trump filter. So, with the recent debacle between school boards and parents in Virginia and the subsequent swing to the conservatives, you know, perhaps we're seeing a parent-led revolt against these ideologies, you know, that are quite obviously anti-family, because the woman who's torn down these posters, you know, she's been, you know, on the one hand, you know, the ultra-leftists are calling her a bigot and a transphobe, which is
it's
completely...
awkward that she's Asian, isn't it? It's awkward.
Yeah. But it's totally unsurprising that they would come out and say that sort of stuff. But most people are calling her a hero, And I was primarily interested in this story because of something that I saw recently. So I went to a cafe the day after lockdown ended here in Melbourne for breakfast with my wife and my son. And there was a TV mounted on the wall that was just set to the MTV channel. And, I'm not a fan of having TVs in restaurants or cafes or even bars,
break, for 5 minutes.
That's right, yeah. And I fucking hate that. But, this was, apart from that, this is quite a nice, cafe restaurant. And so all the clips that were showing on this thing were bordering on softcore porn. One in particular that grabbed my attention, which you were able to identify for me, actually. It's called That's What I Want by Lil Nas X. And so this video clip features two male American football players fucking in the locker rooms. Now, I'm not prudish about this sort of stuff, but this is a family venue, And after our breakfast, I had to tell the waiter about this situation with the TV and the video clip before we left. And, because I don't want my 3-year-old son watching that stuff,
It's pretty intense film clip, yeah.
It is, yeah. And why do 3-year-olds have to be converted into kink machines, I mean...
Well, you would say that, you bigot.
Yeah. I mean, and most little kids are like this. Like, he's got so many questions, constantly his favorite word is why. And, he doesn't let things go. He wants to know exactly what's the deal with everything. And I don't want to have to sit there and explain what the fuck's happening in this video clip. I mean, let the kid be a kid for 5 seconds. You know what I'm saying? Like,
can't his questions be about like Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs instead of Lil Nas X, like in the showers, the locker room, like aggressively making out with another dude?
Yeah,
like,
yeah, yeah. I know.
Which is fine, by the way. It's just context. It's not.
That's right. That's
appropriate for all times, because as this woman who tore down the posters has shown, is that despite what Hollywood and a lot of other people push, there's a lot of just socially conservative people out there. That's just one part of their life. They're like, oh, yeah, I mean, and this is the real awkward thing about immigrant communities as well. Like if you actually go and hang out with them, new Australians or new Americans or whatever, like go into their communities, and I think people would be so shocked by the level of social conservatism. They'd be like, oh, I like family values, I like respect for my wife, respect for I want monogamy, like I'm not into crazy stuff, like I don't want to get involved with a lot of crazy sex stuff.
Yeah.
I think that is a very popular position. I think it's probably more popular than OkCupid thinks it is.
That's right. Yeah. Well, that brings up the question, why did OkCupid go this way? Why are they going woke? Because they're alienating their core consumer base, which surely is straight heterosexual people. There's not enough, non-binary kink machines out there to prop up this $3.1 billion company,
But also just gays and lesbians, like just socially conservative gays and lesbians.
That's right.
Who are looking to meet just someone else who shares a couple of their interests and shares the same sexual preferences as them.
But I also think that their political grandstanding that they're engaging in here, they're cutting out like 50% of their potential market as well. Didn't like 50 million Americans vote for Trump? Is that right? Is it 50 million? 70 million. So even more. So, if you were smart business people, you'd go, hey, we might believe all this shit the Democrats are saying, but we're a business and we want the most people to be on our platform as possible.
And when you think about it, Biden only won by a bee's dick.
That's right. And in the famous words of Michael Jordan, Republicans fuck too.
Yes,
don't they?
Saying that. Yeah.
Well, his actual quote.
Only wearing Jordans.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Well, his actual quote was Republicans buy sneakers too. But anyway, Republicans go on dating sites too,
This is a complete erasure of the flyover states. The entire middle of America is completely erased. Now, look, bear in mind from my cursory reading that this campaign was specifically targeted to Chicago, Los Angeles, and New York, I think.
Right. Okay.
I'm not 100% sure on that, but that comes up in some of the articles. And I think that you do look, if we're honest about it and say it is just a targeted campaign for elite, educated, metropolitan, city youth or something, then that makes it a little bit more sense. You say, okay, yeah, well, this is pretty much who you're going after, but it does ignore huge amounts of people, and which is not good.
Yeah, that's right. Well, let's run through the reaction to the subway incident. And, this shit is so predictable. Of course, the woman from the subway was called a transphobe and a bigot from the mainstream media, but she was also arrested for ripping down the advertising posters.
Oh, well, public property damage.
Property damage, yeah, which is what they've got her on for there. So the Pink News headline was this: OkCupid condemns disgusting bigot who tore down pansexual poster in shocking viral video.
Can you just label people like that? Like, that doesn't seem like, I mean, let the actions speak for themselves.
Yeah. I mean, she's talking about family values. She's talking about kids, I
don't know. I think it's a complex, isn't it? And and Pink News is being the one-eyed institution that it is.
That's right. Yeah. And OkCupid's CMO, Melissa Hobley, she responded to the viral video with a tweet. And her tweet is, in light of the recent homophobic rant sparked by our ad campaign celebrating all kinds of people and all kinds of love, OkCupid is making an even bigger commitment to be inclusive. So thanks for the craziness. Also, put on a mask. You owe the MTA $50.
She also said, when you're truly inclusive, you're bound to offend someone. Humble brag. When you're truly inclusive, you're bound to offend someone, And you go,
I know,
okay.
yeah. Well, she went on to say in PR Weekly that these reactions only serve to make it even more clear that we must continue to champion people who are historically underrepresented. She said in a statement, whether you're a non-binary person, an environmentalist, a vaccine advocate, or all of the above, you deserve to find what you're looking for.
What about Republicans?
That's exactly right.
Like, what about what fucking ridiculous, illogical
I know.
words. She's like, it's for every person. And you go, wait a minute. Look, I know that's a great line you've come up with, but I'm just looking at your campaign. It's clearly not for every person because you don't think conspiracy theorists deserve to find love. You think they should go and die.
Yeah, that's right.
Do you know what I mean? If it really was about for everyone, which it probably should be, then you just go, look, I just, when you know that old adage, you say, oh, there's someone for everyone. What that means is, if you like Alex Jones and you love InfoWars, then you need to find someone else who likes InfoWars. Yeah. And that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. Would you, if you're one of these people at OkCupid, would you really not let two InfoWars tinfoil hat loonies find love with each other? What the fuck? Why would you be such a hateful son of a bitch?
I know. Well, it's interesting, these questions that they've got. So when you start an OkCupid account, you got to go through all these questions that help match you with other people, I guess, putting you in different pools politically and, I don't know, sexually or whatever. But, asking people on OkCupid, did Russia hack the US election? If I was starting up OkCupid and that came up, I'd be like, what is this crazy? Why are they asking me this question? This is a fucking mad question, What's that got to do with me wanting to find, a life partner here?
And then the person listening to your response clicks Trump maybe person, and then you get your profile goes into the Trump voter
But it's also assuming that there's no gray area, there's no overlap, there's no room for
welcome to the Democratic Party
and changing views and
no redemption.
That's right. Yeah, I mean,
no interplay between people, no shared experience.
That's right. Yeah, you're either on that side or you're on the other side, and that's it. You can't. you can't cross. You know, it's
But also,
bizarre.
Yeah, but are we just going to let that image of the two tongues joining go? Are we just going to let that go? That is body horror.
It is,
like,
yeah.
That image is not just two people like because if it was just, you know, non-binary people kissing or two gay people kissing, you'd go, oh, whatever, they're just kissing. This is not that. This is a horrifying image, like H.R. Geiger image of two tongues, you know, as one. Like that is it makes me genuinely queasy, and I don't understand. They're like, oh, what? You just can't handle it. I'm like, I don't think many people can handle that.
Yeah.
Like, do you know what I mean? Like, it's weird. That's a weird image.
It is. Yeah, it's human centipede shit.
It is, you fucking weirdos. You know?
I know.
So it's body horror, and I don't get it. And all of these ads are obsessed with sense experience as well. Like, is that all a relationship is? Like, is that all it is? It's just hookups and stuff. It's like, do you know what? Like, isn't a relationship meant to be about something more? And what happened to the idea that you should improve yourself, be the best version of yourself to find someone?
Yeah.
Maybe these fucking losers, these leftist losers, wouldn't need OkCupid if they weren't such hard work.
Yes, yeah.
Like they're hot under the collar. They're on a hair trigger. They've got white guilt. They've got all these fucking neuroses. They're probably overeducated and underemployed, and they can't find anyone to fuck, despite how interesting they tell us they all are with all their badges telling us about all the things they're into.
Yeah. And the pink hair and the weird fashion and the tattoos and the piercings and look how interesting I am, you know.
You're just a tryhard. I just go, this is too much. I'd say, what are you offering someone? I'd say, like, I know you want A, B, and C. I'd say, what are you offering them?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like what and they'd go, oh, it's not about that. It's about what they're offering me. And I go, well, you know.
Yeah.
I know there was a famous president that said, ask not what your country can do for you, you know?
Yeah.
So I just feel like there's a real, they're pulling a Swiftie because, as you say, they're a big fat corporate company. They don't care about all of this woke politics. They're just using it in these democratically run cities. None of this would fly in any other state which is inhabited by people who have to work for a living and, you know, just get on with their life. And a lot of it's niche and weird. And I don't know what the fuck else to say.
Divide and conquer. That's what the Chinese want. They're trying to divide and conquer us. The government is against us, and you guys don't see it. You guys think that you take a vaccine and this is going to go away? It's never going to go away. So we, the people, say we don't want this anymore.
Thank you. Watch and learn. That's what bravery looks like.
I have another story. You know, I follow the New York Times closely, much to, I just, you know what I think about these fucking people.
That's right. Yeah. You read the New York Times, so we don't have to.
That's right. So this is an opinion piece called Can We Separate the Art from the Artist by Jennifer Finney Boylan, an opinion writer, on the 3rd of November. Now, it appeared under a different headline. Do you have that other headline?
I do. The original headline was, Should Classic Rock Songs Be Toppled Like Confederate Statues?
That clearly was the original. Like, there's no... Because this next one is so general. Can we separate the art from the artist? It's so general and less, shall we say, incendiary than the previous one. So if you search for it online, you get those two. So anyway, I'll read you out just a couple of quotes from this. Basically, she's talking about, the idea of art and artists and their private lives and things like that. So she begins by summoning Don McLean by saying, a long, long time ago, I can still remember how that music used to make me smile. American Pie, Don McLean's generation but defining ballad, was released on vinyl 50 years ago this October. The first time I ever heard it, I was with my sister in our kitchen. I was 13. I was eating a blah, 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 blah. Anyway, she says it's the greatest song ever. But when Patricia McLean, Don McLean's ex-wife, hears American Pie, she isn't reminded of golden moments of adolescence or even the classic age of rock and roll memorialized by the song. Miss McLean says she was subjected to years of emotional and physical abuse from her former husband. Then it goes into an explanation of the sort of Don McLean's domestic violence, going to court and paying a fine and whatnot. Now, Miss McLean even says that perhaps she's gone on to start up a domestic violence sort of institution and whatnot. And this is where the author really hits on it here. The past several years have seen a reassessment of our country's many mythologies, from the legends of the generals of the Confederacy to the historical glossing over of slave-holding founding fathers. But as we take another look at the sins of our historical figures, we've also had to take a hard look at our more immediate past and present, including the behavior of the creators of pop culture. The reassessment extends now to people who wrote some of our best loved songs. But what to do with the art left behind? Can I still love their music if I'm appalled by various events in the lives of Johnny Cash, Elvis, or Jerry Lee Lewis? Or by Eric Clapton's racist rants and anti-vaccination activism? And then just one last paragraph and we'll get into it. So, for a lot of baby boomers, it's painful to realize that some of the songs first lodged in our memories in adolescence really need a second look, and it's hard to explain why younger versions of ourselves even thought they were okay in the first place. I want to live in a world where I can be moved by art and music and literature without having to come up with elaborate apologies for the work or for its creators. But does such a world exist? It's hard to think of some of our greatest artists without also thinking of their messy, sometimes destructive lives. In so many cases, it's the very chaos, those lives that helped create the art. It's easy to romanticize the chaos and to ignore the wreckage artists can leave behind in their wake. So she also summons up Brown Sugar, which by Rolling Stones they've dropped from their tour dates now because on grounds that it's racist or whatever. So this is a fascinating opinion piece. What did you make of it?
Well, I think it's absolute nonsense. It's fucking bollocks, First of all, why do artists need to be Puritan arbiters of current morality trends? It's absurd to think that a song written 60 years ago will hit all the woke high notes of 2021. And also this whole idea of like having to ban a song because the artist had some sort of transgression, artists aren't perfect people, and the philosophical argument that you could make is you could go, well, let's weigh it up. Don McLean's wife, she obviously went through some shit because of Don McLean, but look at how many people out there in the world have been inspired and have been brought joy by that song. Surely that outweighs what's happened to Don McLean's wife, and therefore we should keep the song,
Or as Dave Chappelle controversially put it in one of his comedy specials, he rapes, but he saves.
Yeah, that's right.
He saves more than he rapes.
Yeah. But it's also a weird mistrust of people too, It's like it's assuming that the average person can't hear an old song and recognize that shit was different back then, It's condescending, I think.
But this is what goes on in the New York Times. This is the people who work there. This is all the people who want to work there or live that lifestyle. They don't. There seems to be a general misunderstanding of what art is, who it's for, why we have it, and how to read it.
That's right. Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like they're so confused. They're like the assumptions in this are that the only reason you listen to songs or go to or view art or watch movies is to have a completely clean, pure moral experience, one that's completely black and white, and that is timeless and evergreen in its morality. So therefore, you can watch it in 1066 or the year 3000, and it's the same experience. It's possibly the most stupid argument I've ever heard in my life.
Yes, I know. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. The idea that you'd listen to the Rolling Stones' Black Sugar and then start advocating for the return of slavery or something, that's just fucking ridiculous.
Yeah. Well, I just feel like this is the most 2020 article ever written. Like, it feels like I really am starting to see 2020 as being as it's those 2020 stuff is really starting to stick out.
Mm.
Do you know what I mean? Like, you know, it's like when you read an article by the Washington Post, and then like you go, it's a relatively normal article, and then you look at their byline under, or their the subtitle under their masthead, and it says "Democracy dies in darkness," and you go what the fuck are you talking about?
Yeah,
and they're like they are like a kid who I don't know, like just shaved all their hair off, and now the summer's over.
Yeah, it is a very infantile, immature way to view art, isn't it? Like, you know, this is something that maybe a little kid would think about art, that you know, if art is bad or you know, immoral, then you know its function then is to inspire you to be immoral and to be bad. You know, I mean, it's such
Monkey
an
see,
infantile
monkey do.
thing.
You know, so I listened to American Pie, and then I went and belted up my wife.
Yeah.
Why'd you do that? Well, I did
Don
some
McLean
reading.
told me to.
Well, no, Don McLean told me to. I did some reading. I really like Don McLean. I was like, I'm going to do whatever he likes to do.
Yeah.
So I belted up my wife, and it was great.
Yeah.
You know, so fucking stupid. So there's a couple of other issues going on here. Again, did you catch the conflation at the beginning, which happens, you know, in these 2020 style articles? The conflation of racist Confederates and slave owners with the messy private lives of pop singers?
Yes, I know.
Is this a helpful, like, you know, line to draw between these things? Like, isn't it offensive to sort of, you know, those very serious issues of dealing with America's original sin of slavery, and you know, and the very real discussion about what statues are appropriate to have in what county or whatever, and who they represent and who they're for and whatever. Those are very real discussions. But then just to say, oh yes, and you know, Don McLean, he's terrible too.
I think it's offensive to Don McLean, you know, even though he has some serious transgressions in his life, but to put him on the same plane as slave owners, like, I mean, this guy, he's from the peace and love generation of the 60s, you know. To put him in the same camp as, you know, some horrible slave owner who owned thousands of slaves is fucking ridiculous and offensive too.
That's right. Yeah. Well, this conflation happens all the time, and again, you know, we're only a hop, skip, and a jump away from talking about Woody Allen, really. And don't get me started. That's you know, I don't care who's listening. You know, we're going to do a big show on Woody Allen, probably when he's not with us anymore or whatever, when it needs to happen. I'll tell you right now, he's a brilliant artist, genius, and you know, I can go into that whole case for you and sort it out, like, because he's one of these figures who people would happily go, oh yeah, like Roman Polanski and Woody Allen, and you say, well, they're different cases. You'd say, you know, Roman Polanski is a wanted criminal for sodomy of a 13-year-old girl. You know what I mean? Like that's one thing. In the other case, a court proved that Woody Allen, you know, didn't assault his children. So that's, unless you don't believe in the law, then that you have to sort of, you know, you can have a question mark about it if you like. That's your right. But the law has said that, you know, it didn't happen. And then in terms of him being with his wife of now for almost 30 years, you know, they started in a very messy, grotesque Hollywood way. Do you know what I mean? He was her guardian. They lived separately. He definitely overstepped the bounds, and it was appalling. They fought through it, and they're married for 3 decades. What can you do? You know, it is what it is. So these are all, what I'm saying is, and I'm not going to go into a big defense, but the point is that all of these cases are different. You know, as Matt Damon was roasted for saying, there's a scale here. There's like levels to these things. So I know that you're not allowed to say that, because rather infantile people have to conflate absolutely everything. But that doesn't help. When you say that Don McLean and a slave owner are the same, that's ridiculous.
It is, yeah.
And that was printed in the New York Times. Now, you know, I just feel like, you know, adult life is complicated. People are flawed. They make bad decisions. They're filled with contradictions. You know, for example, Obama was an inspirational statesman who I definitely would have voted for twice. And yet he conducted 534 drone strikes that killed somewhere between 318 civilians. Bush, in contrast, George W. Bush conducted 57. So Obama, 534, Bush, 57.
Yeah.
So you think about that, Alec Baldwin made people laugh on 30 Rock and through carelessness or who knows what, he's killed someone with a handgun recently. Well, what do we do with that? So
yeah,
it's this is every song a direct message from the artist? Do you know what I mean? As well.
Well, I've got a question for you. Can you cancel Michael Jackson?
Can you cancel him?
Can you cancel his music? Can you get rid of Michael Jackson's music forever?
I feel like it's a tricky one
because he is.
I don't think so.
His album Thriller is the most successful and one of the best pop albums of the 20th century. It's nothing has come close to that. And his other albums have been masterpieces as well. And he's an amazing performer. I don't think you can cancel that. I know he is still innocent until proven guilty with all this, kiddie fiddling stuff. But if it ever comes out one day that it was all 100% true, like, I don't see how you cancel Thriller. I just don't see how that happens.
Well, I think it depends, isn't it? Because I think there'll always be maybe a question mark, maybe, or a little asterisk, but it's certainly getting a lot of airplay. Like, I mean, it's not you just have to watch where you play it, But I think the art, it's funny. Like, I feel like what will happen over time is as happens with a lot of art, is the crimes will fade.
Yeah,
in people's memory or whatever, and what will remain is the music. Whether that's right or wrong, I'm not here to say, but I'm just saying that's probably what will happen. Like, and there's a lot of places where you go. Like, I went to Las Vegas like a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, whatever, and I went to the Michael Jackson show. It was sold out, man. Yeah, it was just like Michael Jackson Cirque du Soleil, sold out. No one cared. So, do you know what I mean? Like there's a lot of people who it's contested, all this stuff. And actually, the Star Trek Tours guy, I remember he was driving us around as in LA. He was all about MJ. He was doing all sorts of bits. And then he said, I'll just say about Michael Jackson, he said he's not, we'll never know, he's not here to defend himself. So,
yeah,
that's that.
He rapes, but he saves.
But I think, just to bring it back to the New York Times, maybe lastly, the New York Times has itself much to answer for, and I think people should look into this. Ashley Winsberg, an author, wrote a book called The Grey Lady Winked, and I encourage people to read that book, and that'll show you that one of the many things that the New York Times did in the 20th century, they've got a very terrible history. Their bureau chief in the 30s was a Nazi sympathizer, and reported in the newspaper that Poland had invaded Germany, and that the attack in World War II was a retaliatory attack by Hitler. And this was long after Hitler's bullshit was well known by the world. This is in 1939, so this wasn't in 1925. Okay, so there are several instances where the New York Times has not just gotten it wrong, but knowingly done the dirty. I believe they've done similar things with Cuba, with Stalin. So they've got a very terrible, terrible, dark history, and yet we still read this newspaper, and yet they. So I guess if we're talking about reconsideration, perhaps they need to look in their own backyard.
If you enjoy what we do here on the New Flesh podcast, there are a number of ways you can contribute to the success of the show. Consider supporting us financially by becoming a Patreon member and donating monthly or yearly. Alternatively, you can donate money through the Buy Me a Coffee platform. If you're strapped for cash at this point in time, there are a number of other ways to support the New Flesh. You can give us a rating or review through Apple Podcasts. These help others to find our show and help spread the word. Or you can tell your friends about us. Don't underestimate the power of a podcast recommendation. And now, back to the show.
All right. Well, I think I need a palate cleanser.
Yeah, let's do it. Sheila!
Hello.
Sheila, It's dark times. Come on, I need the news.
Yeah, well, I can give you the news, but just as a side note, I don't know if I can do any more side boob ventures with you guys because Glenn listened to the show and I made mention that I thought one of the guys was attractive in Friday the 13th, Scott,
Yes. Okay. Yep.
Pervy Scott. I haven't heard the last of it.
Okay.
I haven't heard the end of it.
So what you're saying is like you guesting on side boob it's been weaponized by your partner.
Yeah.
He's latched on to something. This happens to all of us though. Well, luckily Katie is quite bored with the show and never listens and lets me know that she's not interested in listening. She says, I'm married to you. This is just the shit I have to listen to all the time.
Oh, wow.
But, I'm fascinated that Glenn's dipped his toe in. Why did he pick that episode? Was it? Oh, it's because you were guesting on that one, right?
No, yeah. And so he listened to it and then has just been casually slipping in things like, if I'll say, oh, you look nice in that shirt. He'll go, oh, not as good as Scott.
Doesn't this give him license, though, to be a sex pest, to be a pig man?
Oh, because Scott was a pig man in Friday the 13th.
It's more about Scott's looks.
Right.
It's more about the fact that I said, Scott had the raven hair and the blue eyes.
Let's be clear. He looks nothing like your husband.
No, he looks not. Well, and Glenn has pointed that out a lot. Okay. Yes. So anyway, just thought I'd let you know
that's
that
great.
I'm being harassed over my guest spot.
No, but that's good in a way. Like at least, that's charming. It's better than someone listening to the rest of it and saying, I've listened to the show and you guys are a bunch of alt-right assholes. Like that would be a bit different, and I think you're bigots. And I heard accents, like Jamaican accents, and you say fruit and queers and stuff.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yes. Yeah, because Glenn's very politically correct. I think he just sort of glosses over the other stuff.
Yeah, good. What's the gospel?
Okay. I think you guys, I don't know. This is my favorite headline of the year. So it's Australian based. Dream wedding descends into chaos after groom's outrageous sex request ended in him being pepper sprayed by cops and declaring, I'll miss Christmas again.
Christmas again. Yeah, I love that.
I'm hoping it's because he was in jail for last Christmas.
So what did he try and force his wife to do? Come on.
He got hammered at they were having a small family wedding at their house and he got wasted and said to his wife, can we invite one of her girlfriends to have sex with us tonight?
On the wedding night. What balls this guy has. Yeah. On the wedding night.
Yeah.
You don't ask, you don't get.
And so the cops were called because he was being such a maniac and he told them to fuck off, you dogs. And then his mother was crying and trying to talk to the police and then he ran up and said, I'll fight you.
Right.
So then he whinged to the judge and said, I'm going to miss Christmas again. This 4-month sentence is going to make me miss Christmas. So I just love it. I love that this guy is so out of control. He's like what I imagine those Bunbury students, from last week to grow up to.
Yeah, that's right. So you start up, having a sick muck-up day.
Yeah.
And then you have a sick wedding.
Yeah, exactly. I love those kids from last week. I love them so much.
Well, hopefully his wish comes true and he gets that threesome in prison.
Yeah.
I think he definitely will.
Well, there is a saying, boys, never say anything to a lady that you wouldn't want said to you by a big burly bloke in prison.
That is vivid and solemn. And so
Why is it solemn? It's
because-
actually a good life choice. Don't
it's
say
true.
anything to a woman that you don't want your rapist to say to you on the first night in prison.
No, it's true, but I was just picturing me getting railed by Big Bubba,
Yeah, well,
and that is why it was solemn.
yeah, okay. That's because it was you.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, here we go. Do people really do that? Tracy Cox reveals the eyebrow-raising sex acts that are more popular than you think, from testicle stretching to pony play, and the ones that are probably just urban legends.
Right. Who's Tracy Cox?
She's Tracy Cox for Mail Online. So she's
she's one
she's
of
one of the
correspondents.
stable. She's just one of the stable of people.
Is she like one of these? Is she sort of straight, like, straight laced person?
I haven't emailed her or anything to ask her about her proclivities, but I'll I'll try and
is
find
she
out.
like
Yeah.
the Daily Mail's like sort of
No, I don't think she's
prudish
the
foil.
sex expert. She's
So
certainly
this
not the
this
sex
isn't a list
expert.
of her kinks then.
No, they
Right.
talk about all kinds of stuff like, pony play, golden showers, electro sex, which is shocking each other,
Hmm.
pearl necklaces, teabagging, pegging. Yeah. All right.
Okay.
Just sounds like standard stuff you'd get at one of these, big end of town Hollywood galas, right?
It's all the stuff that you put on your OkCupid profile.
Sniffing dirty t-shirts, hanging weights on your testicles, people enjoying wearing nappies, adult breastfeeding, golden showers. Yeah.
Whatever gets you over the top, I suppose.
Yeah.
But I feel like it's just this endless classification and like just this hoarding, like we're making an encyclopedia of this stuff. It's organic. It's just like whatever. Like, I think I've always just got it in for a sex act where there's like a lot of prep and there's a lot of talking about it and a lot of, you've got to have a community and it's, why can't it
So
just be one part of your life?
The shorthand is what you're saying is, why can't we all just be mad cunts?
Well, I don't know.
Hey, why can't we all just be mad cunts, and why do we have to put a label on it? Just
I guess so, yeah.
Let me be a mad cunt in the bedroom.
That's right.
And don't label me and what I'm gonna do.
No, because it's all the stuff that comes with it. It's like do you know what? Like, honestly, if you like Ricky, if you wanted to get pegged to send you over the top, okay, like blow your hair back.
Yep.
I would be totally not by me, by you. I would be like, yeah, whatever, man, that's fine. But it's this endless talking about it and this endless telling, like writing articles and blog posts about.
But also
why
that
you
has to
should do
be.
it.
But that has to be a core part of my identity now. Like, I'm a pegger.
Yeah, it's not just something you do. It's not one of your pursuits. It's now you're a pegger and you go like pegging lives matter.
Yeah.
And like
I'm a pegger. That guy over there, he's the golden shower guy.
Yeah, that's right. Like, believe all peggers.
Yeah, that guy loves that guy.
That's going in some promotional material. Believe all peggers.
Believe all peggers. I do believe them. I believe they're serious about wanting to peg.
Yeah.
Well, apparently, a lot of girls get hit up on Tinder by random guys to be involved in pegging. So.
I've heard this talked about before. Like, I think Ryan Long might have even, because he's obsessed with pegging. And
he is,
it was always going to be guys that were leading the charge with this one. It was never this whole Teen Vogue thing.
Because it's very boring for women to peg.
Well, yeah, but Teen Vogue and that are trying to make it some kind of like political act. Like they talk endlessly about it, like why you should be pegging and
Anna Wintour needs to spend more time. She needs to put her foot down on that and say.
Oh, is that does she have something to do with the Met Gala?
Yeah, she's the head of Vogue.
Right. So that's why Carla Delevingne or whatever her name is.
No, that's not why. Cara Delevingne would have just, she just would have worn that. It wouldn't have had anything to do with anything.
Anyone who's listening, this is the Peg the Patriarchy overalls that Was she in Valerian?
Yeah, she was in Valerian, so I can't take her seriously, can
Carla,
I?
what's her face?
And she's in Carnival Row. She's a what do you call a MACTA, model actor?
Yes.
A MACTA.
Very good, very good.
All right. Anyway, moving on. Now, my dearly departed mother would have described this headline. If she read it, she would have just said, "Well, when your time's up, your time's up." So, man eaten by piranhas after jumping into lake to escape bees.
Actually, you prepped me for this one, and I think was it Glenn that had someone had an addendum to this. They said that's some Final Destination shit.
Yeah. He said that's like real life Final Destination.
It is. That is absolutely Final Destination. Yeah. Like, you know,
poor
like
bugger.
Where your death is a Rube Goldberg machine. Like it's just this chain reaction of things.
You're basically in the cube.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
That's great.
Or in Saw.
Reminds me of the Wicker Man remake. The bees!
God,
no,
the bees!
not the bees!
Not the bees!
Not the bees!
Masterpiece.
I know. So R.I.P. that poor bugger. So I feel sorry for him.
Right.
But I mean, what an appalling headline.
But what a way to go. You know, spectacular.
I was always terrified of piranhas when I was young because there was nothing on TV in the 70s in the afternoon on Saturdays except like 1940s Tarzan films and stuff, and there was a lot of piranhas involved in those films.
Well, what I'm more scared of are those South American fish that are tiny that swim up your pee hole.
Up your dick. I knew you were going to say it. The dick fish.
The dick fish.
I knew you were going to talk about dick fish.
It's like something out of Species. You know?
Yeah.
But it's like something out of like saying to young boys, draw your worst nightmare, and they would all be going, oh, what about a fish? It crawls up your dick, you know, and then it becomes real.
It is so true. That is so
true. It's just like worst nightmare stuff. Okay. Now, this harks back to Leighton and Beck Hewitt from last week. This is the Daily Mail just being absolute curb crawlers. Kate Moss has boxes marked clothes and Dreamcatcher removed from $10 million North London home as possessions are loaded into removal van for the second day running. I mean, for fuck's sake.
Dreamcatcher.
These guys who I demand... Okay, this is by Zari for Mail Online. Aisha, contact us, please, because I want to know what drives a person to write this.
Aisha she's right on the money because I am judging Kate Moss for having a dream catcher and having a box with probably several of them.
Yeah. Is she 12?
I'm surprised some of them weren't called like, durry cartons, Coke bowls.
No, like gear, just like shooting up gear.
I don't think she was caught for shooting up, but I have seen her smoke a lot of darts over the years, and also she was caught, which no judgment.
No, but
having a lot of Coke,
that big bloater Pete Doherty, he when he wasn't a bloater, he went out with her, didn't he?
Yeah.
Well, he looked like he liked a bit of heroin.
Okay.
And I'm just saying, like, as if she's never been there when he's doing Anyway, I don't know.
I've been there when my friends have shot heroin. Doesn't mean I've shot heroin.
I know, but he was doing it a lot. He was doing it a lot. And she was like, they were together.
I've watched them, and my mates have said, "Do you want some?" Oh no, I'm fine with the Doritos. I'm sitting there eating Doritos and saying, "No, I'm fine, thanks."
You know what? I've never met someone who did heroin like recreationally. Is that weird? Like I've met people that have done all sorts of things, but I've never met someone who's done heroin.
Well,
like,
I don't think any
just dabbling, you know.
Yeah, well, I don't think any of my friends were doing it recreationally. I think some of them were high functioning heroin addicts who I think they were all addicts. Yeah,
because heroin isn't it's not a real party drug, you know. So
no, they were just
it's not a lifestyle choice. You sort of do it once and then it's game over.
Yeah.
You know?
And you're on the nod. You're on the nod.
That's right.
All right. So here we go. Terminally ill retired university lecturer who was arrested for mooning at a speed camera reveals the next item on his bucket list is to streak naked at a rugby match, but says he'll need a volunteer to help him. I'll help you, Daryl Meekcom. I'll fucking help you, mate. No problems.
Contact Sheila at New Flesh.
Yeah, contact me. Where are you, Daryl? Are you in England? Oh, bugger. I think you're in England. Because if you're in Australia, I'll bloody help you, mate. I'll get you out onto that rugby field. Nude.
But do all of Daryl's like Make-A-Wish things involve him getting nude?
He got arrested because he mooned a mobile speed van.
That's not illegal, is it?
And, well, where did it happen?
No sex, please. We're British.
Yeah, it must be England because you wouldn't get arrested for that. Worcester.
No, because
Worcester.
But if your ass, what if your ass just popped out? Would you get arrested?
Wardrobe malfunction.
Yeah, I don't think you'd get arrested for that shit in Australia.
So someone's driving.
We think bums are funny.
So Katie's driving, and then I reach over. I go, oh, I got to get the thing out of the back. See something, my phone's fallen over, and it's emergency or whatever. And I get up and I bend over, and my buns, like my pants fall down, and my big buns flop out, and the camera snaps them. What? I get arrested.
Oh, I don't know, but it's a different country. They've got different laws and stuff.
Jeez. They
don't probably take nudity as well as we do, maybe.
They've been deeply offended by it.
Yeah, they have. They're arresting people. I think they should maybe arrest people for knife crime in, Hackney, but never mind.
So true.
Yeah,
it's so true. Take that, Sadiq Khan, you stone cold loser.
Yes, Sadiq.
Very good.
Okay, now this is for Ricky because he sent it to me and he said, surely the Daily Mail is all over this. Ricky, the Daily Mail wasn't.
Really?
I waited for it day after day and it never showed up. But I think possibly because their English and maybe Piers has a fair bit to do with it and he's very, very pro royal family, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so Joe Biden let out a huge fart and Camilla, Duchess of Cornwall, cannot stop talking about it.
I'd hoped this story wouldn't make its way to the podcast, but here it is.
Yeah, but underneath there's a little addendum as well. Recently, Joe Biden is also rumoured to have suffered a bathroom incident during his meeting with Pope Francis at the Vatican.
So what, he shit himself, is that what they're saying?
I think they're talking about sharting there.
Dreadful stuff. This really is terrible.
I've been Kevin Bloody Wilson today.
No, but this is terrible. This is the leader of the free world. Why can't he just, just take a back step? This is terrible, He's fallen apart here.
Yeah, but also, what the fuck is Camilla doing? Like, aren't you supposed to be really, stiff upper lip? And
isn't it rude to talk about this sort of stuff?
If it was an Australian, I mean, they would, Scott Morrison, he would have spoken about it.
Because we're vulgar.
But I mean, this is their royal family, not my royal family because I'm not a royalist, but, this is their royal family. She's supposed to be, being quiet and just going, oh, hello, would you like to come into the house? That kind of thing.
Does she, if Charles becomes king, does she become queen?
I don't know. They're both divorcees, but you can get divorced in the Church of England. So I don't know.
You can, yeah. Now, before we leave this story, which I found in the New York Post.
You found it.
I found it. You
get a spotter's fee.
Yep. Awesome. You've left out the best quote here. It was long and loud and impossible to ignore, the source told the outlet.
Like that?
John, you're loving this story, aren't you?
I like Sheila like that. Oh God, no, it's not good. But no, I think it's it's news, I suppose.
It is news.
It's impossible to ignore.
All right. Now, this next one, I'm not entirely sure about it, but I know that you guys like Terry Crews. So I've got it in there. Terry Crews is accused of cosplaying as a poor person now this is in quotations, deranged Amazon recruitment ad that shows him working in a warehouse. Critics slam him for being a sellout and a union buster.
What a niche story. But people will hate on anything. He probably just did it for money.
Crews, who has an estimated net worth of $25 million, was skewered for cosplaying as a poor person and promoting Amazon propaganda.
This is a bit like that. Isn't there a show where it's called? Is it called Secret Boss?
Undercover Boss.
Undercover Boss.
Yeah, it's a bit like that, isn't it?
Something like it.
I guess so, but
that's next level. I mean, these people are so rich now that in order to, entertain themselves, they've got to do this sort of shit.
Well, I think it was a video, a promotion. What is it, like a training video or something?
Yeah, it's a recruitment video.
So they've just put him in a recruitment video, and they've paid massive bank, and he just didn't think anyone would ever see it or report on it. Here it is.
Yeah, and here it is. So I mean, I guess people are taking offense to him being a recruiter for sort of like what would you call working at Amazon, like the working poor or like a slave camp or something like that?
Yeah, I don't know. Like sort of like working for the empire.
Yeah. All right, I've got one last one before I go. Everything is considered appropriation. Tom Ford slams cancel culture for inhibiting design and says he misses the time people could celebrate other cultures.
I agree, Tom.
So do I.
Tom Ford.
Ford.
He's a great designer. He is a good designer.
We need people to speak up. We need these, like all of the heavyweights, the Titans, are quiet. They're all silent. They're not saying anything. It's only a couple of lunatics like Roseanne Barr and stuff who are saying stuff. Like we need proper people to, who are out there working to stand up and say we've had enough. So thanks, Tom.
And sharing the best of everyone's culture is one of the most amazing things about the world we live in today. I mean, with globalization and you're able to travel and, you're able to see parts of the world that you could never see hundreds of years ago. And what a gift it is to be able to share your culture with other people who dig it,
Exactly. I put this in because when I was listening to Side Boob, you guys talked about deep forest and the sampling and all that kind of thing and how it's sort of turned on itself. So, yeah, that's why I put this in. I thought it was very interesting because you guys were talking about the musical element, and this is Tom Ford, who's an absolutely prolific designer, and he's admitted that A-listers have become homogenized thanks to agents and managers dictating what they should wear in fear of being cancelled.
But what do we do? That's the thing. What with that kind of cutting edge fashion? What do we do with it? Because I mean, having been to the Gautier exhibition, I'm pretty sure, under this new regime, none of his designs would work on any level. Do you know what I mean? Like culturally. The way his gender stuff, they'd say it's too sexy and misogynist, even though that he does sort of, that sort of pool boy gay stuff as well.
What about the torpedo bras? Do you feel that would have been, who are we taking those torpedo bras from?
I just feel like, I don't know, but it just feels like that entire industry. Again, needs to stand up and say, look, who even said this criticism?
Yeah.
And you go, oh, it was the intern. Okay, don't listen to them.
Yeah. Okay, that's me.
Excellent. Thanks, Sheila.
Bye, guys.
Okay, Squid Game.
Squid Game. Okay, we'll just last topic today. We're going to talk about Squid Game. So, Ricky, you're watching Squid Game. What do you reckon? What do you think?
It's very good. It reminds me of back in the day. A good friend of mine. He found out I'd never seen Breaking Bad, and he hassled me. He's like, but he was very aggressive about it. He was saying, you're a fucking dickhead. Why haven't you seen it? Like, it's the best show. Yeah. He went to town. He's like, it's the best show ever made. What are you doing? You fucking dickhead. Why aren't you watching it? And I said to him, you know what? I'm never watching Breaking Bad. I'm never watching it. Okay. And then 5 years later, I watched it, and it was it was the greatest show. I realized it was the greatest TV show ever made. Now, there's a lot of hype going here with the Squid Game. And I could have taken a similar tack, like, fuck you guys. I'm never watching the Squid Game. But I did watch the Squid Game, and I'm actually one episode off finishing, so I've got the last one to go. But I love it. It's so good. What the fuck is up with Koreans? Like, I've never seen a Korean film that I didn't like. I haven't seen that many, but the ones that I've seen, I've always gone, what the fuck is up with Korea? I think I need to see more. And this show is amazing. I can't recommend it enough. What do you think?
Well, I've got some specific things I want to talk about this show, because it is fantastic. If I'd read more articles, I probably would have been. They're all filled with spoilers. That's the problem. So the article, when you read the articles, you realize that there is a bit of pushback against it. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I read that in the New York Times and a few other places. Like, they're all hot under the collar about the violence, and they're like, "Oh, yes,
really?
Yeah." They're all like, "Oh, it's low." Like, you and I don't care about that, so we don't we don't notice it. Whereas I forget there's a lot of people out there who are like, "Oh, this violence is disgusting." Oh, and they're using it just to, they killed 200 people in the first episode just to make a point that inequality is bad, not worth it, and everything. And you just go, "Oh, okay, all right, geez." People are such candy asses.
Yeah,
like, I didn't realize that this was still a thing. Anyway,
well, I haven't read anything about it at all, and I think I'm glad that
you have to wait.
That's the case.
Saying that, because it'll ruin that last episode. But what I will say about it is, this show is really good. I'm really happy that it's done really well. It's exciting. It's a human story. It's beautifully written, particularly the marble episode 6. I think it is, and really clever craft, and it resembles in a lot of ways a lot of the great things we used to make in the West. So that's why people like it. And I'm not saying the West is best at all. What I'm saying is that people like it because it's good, and we used to do some good stuff. And the reason it's good, I think, is because Korea is being held to a different standard than other content creators in perhaps the US and America, and certainly in Australia. So, people were listening. They say, yeah, you alt-right boys are at it again. Here you are just saying that, vague stuff about how this is good and whatever. I'll give you some specific examples. So the reason that this show is off the chain is because I know. So one of the characters in it is a North Korean defector. There's another character who is a Pakistani immigrant, a range of other characters. But, firstly, Korea is quite homogenous, I'm imagining. So that, again, is they've got a different cultural situation. But I'm almost 100% certain that there was not a North Korean sensitivity reader or a North Korean consultant on board. To do a rewrite of the dialogue, of her dialogue or her story, or approve her story or whatever. I'm almost 100% sure that a Pakistani sensitivity reader or consultant was not used, or a diversity consultant or whatever. These people, although well-intentioned, are part of the woke industrial complex, and they're paid to really just cause problems for you. Because your thing is, you go to a diversity sensitivity reader, you think they're just going to read your script and say, as I said before, "Oh, no case to answer here"?
Yeah.
Or are they going to say, "I'm getting paid $800 a day or whatever, or however much it is. I need to write some notes." And it's going
you need to justify your job.
It's going to be all negative. It's going to be, you're not doing enough. So it's loaded with that. And there were 3 mentions throughout the series. 3 mentions. I have not heard China mentioned in a film or a television show in decades. And there was 3 mentions of China, and not in positive ways.
Yeah.
It was used as, suggesting that it was North Korea was its puppet state, which is true.
Yeah.
So there were 3 mentions of China, which was shocking. There were also negative characters left and right. There was also a lot of the games that people get involved in, you use an element of strength or whatever. And so there was a lot of discussion throughout all the characters as to the physical abilities of men and women.
Yes. Yeah.
So, characters good and bad all said, we've already got a woman, we need a man. Well, they said the same thing about, we've got an old man, we've got 2 women, we need more men, because men, blah, blah, blah. Now, this isn't saying that women can't run Facebook. What we're saying is that, in the world that these people were living in, this cutthroat world, these were the realities of the world we live in, and a lot of the people who said these things were saying it, and it seemed completely authentic.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like the bad guys said it, and they were just a lot more piggish about it, but the good guys were saying it too. And so,
well, if you've got to play a game of tug of war and the loser dies, then, you want to have some strong people.
Well, what I'm getting at is that Squid Game gets to present without sensitivity readers and without a lot of oversight from, I'm sure, Netflix and whoever, was allowed to write scripts using the old rules, which was imagination, presenting the world as it is, for better or worse. That means including all the negative stuff. That means including, there was characters who were smoking, for instance. You know what I mean? Like, whereas I saw a Netflix documentary with Martin Scorsese and a documentary about New York, Fran Lebowitz, I think, and they mentioned in a story e-cigarettes or something, and they had a fucking thing that came up at the end of the show before the directed by thing saying, this show does not endorse e-cigarettes or whatever. And you're like, fucking hell. So there is some serious content, like control going on over English-speaking content at Netflix, and a lot of gatekeeping. And I think that what we're witnessing here is that the reason we like anime and the reason we like Korean stuff, so from Japan and Korea, is because they are, unbridled. They are imaginative, and they are telling their stories using all of their tools, and they are unimpeded by this Silicon Valley, Jack Dorsey, Mark Zuckerberg, Democratic Party sort of, wokeism,
Yeah.
which seems very arbitrary, and all it is just people, like they'd read the script and they'd say, oh, he says here that your characters are saying that they want men in their team. You can't say that. Okay, well, don't. Oh, we also need to have, there's not enough of these types of people or whatever. So the South Koreans are getting a free pass here, and I'm fascinated that no one's brought this up.
Yeah, it is fascinating. But it's so well crafted, and sure, the premise is big and grand, and they've obviously got a fairly sizable budget because it looks amazing, and there are all these big sort of set piece scenarios where they're doing these, quite intense, gruesome games and stuff. But it comes down to the characters, though. I mean, they're so well written, and like the main character. And I've got to apologize. I'm so bad at remembering all of the names in this show as well, the Korean names. But
Player 457.
Yeah. Well, also there's a large portion, sort of in the 3rd, 4th, and 5th episode where in the compound that they only refer to each other by their numbers as well, so they haven't really made the introductions and things as well. So, but the main character, he's a deadbeat dad. He's like a gambler. He's lost all his money. He's such a piece of shit, and you really get to understand his character, and he grows as well, like through these games, and there's friendships that are.
He seems so heroic and handsome by that second last episode.
That's right.
Isn't it amazing, that transformation? Like he seems like such a scumbag for the first few episodes, and then after everything he goes through, he's completely transformed. That's what we used to do. We used to write those stories.
Yeah.
And the best episode is that 6th episode, the Marbles episode. Now that is Think about that. That is literally just people talking the whole time.
It is,
walking
yeah.
around and talking.
Yeah. And there's not even that much marble playing either. You know, you think it'll be something where, you know, slow motion shots of people throwing and intense music, and it's just none of that. It's people talking. And for those who haven't seen the Squid Game or this episode, like basically before the game begins, before anyone knows what the game is, they're told that this game's going to be played in pairs and you've got to pair up with someone. So everyone assumes that it's going to be sort of like
cooperative.
like a 2-on-2 game or something, you know, where you and your partner have to battle someone else's partner. So, and because we've had sort of friendships that have been fostered throughout the other episodes, like, you know, people pair up based on friendships, I guess, and then they discover that they're actually playing each other in a game of marbles, and it gets so intense. Like, I mean, you've got sort of a husband and wife that are paired together. I mean, you've got, the saddest one is this. There's one character who is very intellectual. He went to one of the most prestigious universities in Seoul, and you know, it was a real big fall from grace, you know, because he's this big academic brain, and he's paired with this with the Pakistani immigrant who you know, he's got a family, and he's basically been fucked over by his boss, and he needs money or whatever, and so they've actually forged quite a good friendship. The Korean guy, the academic, he basically has to betray that friend to win the game, and it's just heart-wrenching.
But you know why? You should read the articles once you've finished, because there's such an obsession with trying to make this story relevant and trying to, you know, just like with Joker, people were going on about the inequality and rich and poor. If someone's talking to you about rich and poor after watching the Joker or even the Squid Game, just walk away. They don't get it. Then they're not into drama and, you know, human stories and just, you know, and going on like this. This was a philosophical exploration of, you know, of the human condition, and it was testing us every time. It wasn't just about, you know, the geopolitics in 2021.
Yes,
that's so one-eyed. Like the best parts of this show were when I completely forgot where I was, when it was, who it was. Like, you know what I mean? I was totally sucked into these characters. It reminded me of like something from the past where it doesn't really matter about the geopolitics. I think there's been too much of a focus on that shit. Do you know what that shit is? That's what you say in a pitch to get it over the line. You say, okay, look, they're going to need to hear some crap about how it's about, you know, it's important, this or that. Let's just give them that shit and then get on with the human story. All the human stories were just fantastic. Really, really, totally suckered me.
Yeah, well, I think this show is going to age fantastically because it doesn't have any of that geopolitical crap in there, and it doesn't have the identity politics shit in there as well. You know, I mean, there's no pansexual, non-binary lesbians, or there's nothing of that in there. You know, it's just, you know, it's just human stories, and it's a story about human connection and human growth, and friendship and loss and betrayal, and the things you have to do to survive, and the things that you have to live with to survive.
And it's imagination.
Yes, and there's a lot of imagination in there too.
And the best anime does the same thing, you know, completely unfettered, often coming from a singular mind as well. That's I think the difference is the more committees are involved and the more sensitivity readers, the more stakeholders, the more people you get, the further away from, you know, fucking Robert Altman and Frank Capra we get. You know what I mean? Like,
and what has the criticism been in some of these articles?
Well, they seem to. Some people come down on the violence, and they think that the message isn't, you know, all because they're let's face it, everyone who writes these articles is on the left. You know what I mean? So of course that they're duty bound to like the somewhat like the idea of collectivism. So. And the critique of capitalism, so that they always signal their virtue by saying, "Oh yes, that's very good," but not good enough because many people were killed. So it's interesting that they draw their line at the violence there. There's been no talk of, and they still, I don't know, like it's got a weird fan base. Like it's even recommended by Mamma Mia, which I thought was fascinating.
Yeah, right.
Like you know, so
but they're almost obliged to recommend whatever the new hotness is, though, right? Like,
I guess
this
so.
is the big show. I mean, surely this is one of the biggest.
And they just have to sort of
shows
go
currently.
along, even though they sort of don't want to, you know? Like,
Well, because they don't want to miss out in a way. You know, they don't want to cover this show that everyone else is covering, that everyone else is talking about in a way. You know,
I like it because, you know, I think it exposed the world to another culture. And that's what we need more of. We need more, particularly America, you know, and don't get hot if you're Americans. All I'm saying is that there are, because I'm sure if you're listening to this, you're obviously very erudite and you're a global traveler, but there are a lot of people in America who perhaps need to, you know, check out Europe, check out Asia, and just, you know, just turn down the heat a bit. Because, you know, once you see that the world is big and that there's a lot of stuff going on that have nothing to do with your country, then it's very freeing.
Well, the defense to that is America is so fucking huge. And there is so much going on there that you could, you know, why would you holiday in Europe when you could holiday in your own country and see amazing shit because it's so big, you know?
Sure. And I love America, you know, and I only, and I mean it as a fond pop over the fence at them. But yeah, no, I thought this was fantastic. And I just know that it's going to be totally perverted by if they do a second season or something. And I think that, you know, it benefited for being a sleeper hit because, you know, just like the Joker, really, the Joker was a sleeper hit.
Now I haven't seen the last episode. Does it open itself up to
possibly
second series and stuff?
They don't go. So they don't make it like contingent. So, you know, like it's one of those endings where you go, oh yeah, like, you know, like.
So it's not like it doesn't end.
No,
and then you've got to wait till the second season.
No, you get enough to walk away if you want, and then with a little bit of a something more.
Yeah, you know what? I've got to mention this. I love the libertines in this. The rich VIPs that come to watch the game in person. So they've been watching it presumably via some sort of, you know, online forum or whatever. But for the final couple of games, they're there in person, and they've just got this lavish setup. Yeah.
The dialogue's the worst. It's no good. It's not good.
It's not good, but that might have something to do with the fact that's all in English. So
of course it is. Yeah. No, this is common. You see this a lot whenever there's stuff in the other language. It's not very good.
But they're just the biggest, richest pieces of shit. Like, and they've got like, did you notice like the nude women and stuff that were painted like the furniture?
I did. Yes.
You could use them as footstools and
stuff.
stuff.
Eyes wide shut stuff.
Yeah, it was like, Jesus Christ, it's Salo stuff, you know.
Yes. Well, this movie owes a lot to the show owes a lot to some other sources. Battle Royale, I think, from Japan is a big one, probably the biggest one that it owes a debt to. Hostel, part 1 and 2, definitely. There's a lot of that in here. So it didn't come from a vacuum.
Yeah.
But yeah, those pigmen were interesting. And I just, you know, they're exactly who you think they'd be. They're sort of like Europeans and Americans and stuff. And it's just so funny because if it was an American show and you just presented something similar, like, you know, but reversed or whatever, like even if it was based on people we know to be villains in the world,
yeah,
I think you'd be run out of town. You know what I mean? You'd be totally run out of town.
Yeah. Well, I reckon all those characters, you know, one of them could have been Jack Dorsey, one could have been Jeff Bezos, one could have been Zuckerberg. That would be fucking amazing. They should all be Silicon Valley guys. You know?
Yeah, definitely.
They should have worked that in somehow, like references to their work in Silicon Valley or something, you know?
Totally.
Yeah. Anyway, so that sounds like Squid Game's a wrap. It's 2 thumbs up from us. Check it out. All right. Well, next week we have Flashdance, continuing our Joe Esterhaus, sort of festival on Wednesday, and we've done it again. Did we talk about next? Well, we always have a little something up our sleeves, but nothing we want to make public right at this point. But Friday's show will be Friday's show. It's always a hit.
It is always a hit. I'll go with that. Excellent. All right. Well, we said what we said.
We did. Long live the new flesh.
Long live the new flesh.
What about
about a fish? It crawls up your dick. Like that.
You fucking weirdos.